Please put your hands together for Marylin Schirmer, as we lovingly call her Maz. Can we resounding applause for her? She is a force in nature in women and emotional healing and empowerment. A single mom who built a global movement. She created the Creatrix method, changing thousands of lives with science-backed hard work. Maz, thank you for showing us what healing and purpose really looks like. Please put your hands together for Maz. You can also call her Maz. Maz, could you please take center stage?
It's so good to see so many familiar faces from last night too, by the way. So I'm just going to get into it because I don't have a lot of time, but I have a lot to cover. I want to come to you from a perspective that's just soul to soul. I know you're specialists and I know you know more than I do in all of your professions, and I've got a PhD in being on the dead grass side of life for a very long time, and then I've been able to turn that around, flip it, and it's actually just the same amount of time now as being on the green grass side of life. So before I sort of say how, I would like to congratulate all of you. I'm not a first responder, but some of you are, and it's so critical at the different stages of needs that there is support and the right kind of support. So my usual talk does challenge belief systems because we are all about results. We sometimes though get caught up in our methods, and in innovation we can take trains of thought, and guess where trains go? In one direction, and sometimes we can. So I'd like to invite you all back to wholeness, back to the beginning, and let's take a little old wander as if we're taking the walk, but in hindsight, for foresight moving forward. Does that make sense? Just to do a little check to see if it's possible we have our own belief systems that could even be in the way of innovation. Because guess what? All of the governing bodies, all of the establishments, all decision makers, policy makers, and professionals in all of our different ologies, we end up in our set of beliefs, but we're going to have a go at belieflessness for a bit of fun and just see if innovation could not be one step, but a huge leap, a bit like AI. Hasn't it taken off? Hasn't it taken off? Whether good, bad, however you see it, the innovativeness that got to it, it's pretty big, don't you think? It's pretty crazy big. What if there's a way to see differently and learn differently? It's a bit weird to say that, but learning, we do it in a certain way. But I'm going to sort of challenge that a little bit to see if there's another way we can learn. And you have had alternative wisdom gaining epiphanies, haven't you? You know, usually through experience, life lessons, they're like that. So yeah, I would like to touch on that. So anyway, to Fluxx, to dignitaries, to His Highness, who isn't in the room at the moment, but is coming, and to all of you winners, professionals, amazing innovators. I wish you all the best tonight, and congratulations already, and thank you to the Fluxx team, because my gosh, what I saw last night just blew my mind in the family feel. So, you know, if you weren't here last night, just settle in, because it's a really warm place to be, and thank you guys and gals and everybody of the team. So I'm going to stick to my cards now. And the reason I got them is for very good reasons. Destiny. We've got a lot of science in the room, but we have spirituality in the room. And science is very much ahead, calculated, and it needs to add up. But good luck. Good luck adding up all of this tonight. But I will try to, you know, help you understand. But questions like this, like destiny, it's sort of, you know, no one knows a lot of what we think we know. And destiny, so how much do we really control? How much is going to happen anyway? I was the black sheep. As a single mother of 4 kids, or before I was even single, I was going to be the one that broke the cycle in my family. I wasn't going to be my mother. And I didn't want a man like my dad, but I ended up with one much worse. So the pattern is ridiculous, and we're not noticing. A policeman said to me when I was doing a talk, because I've written several books over the years, and after I turned my life around, I wrote my own story. I walked away from a very high-paying senior position because I needed to find a solution to something that nobody noticed yet was a problem. So I walked away. At that time, I mean, we're talking over a decade, but you know, I was on $27,000 a month. It's not a lot to some people, but it's a lot of money to a lot of people. And I was on a single mum pension before that, so you know, it's rich in my world. But I walked away because there's a problem, and it's really big, and it's a blind spot in this industry. And if we can all become aware that this is not, and bring this into the open, it's not an easy sort of thing to get out into the open, but my gosh, we could decongest this entire industry if we did fairly quickly. Not, of course, not totally, but yes, we can. We can make such a massive difference to the way we think it's got to be done. And just could there be an easier way? So does what we resist persist? Have we noticed? Does what we resist persist? I had such a fighting attitude about breaking the cycle. I had an attitude. I was angry. And it wasn't going to happen on my watch to my family. So it did, and it was painful. So how deeply set into motion is destiny? Now, just stay with me. If we don't know change is possible. So until we know change is possible, but does everybody know change is possible? I've been training facilitators, I've been training therapists for 13 years now, and I have a lot of them around the world, and they come from all different places. And yeah, I will tell you that deep down a lot do have this kind of belief that you can't actually properly, fully heal past emotional stuff or break deep generational cycles. But that, I'm just standing here as the proof. So who's heard, yeah, I've said that. How predictable is our future then? Is it predictable? I mean, no, in this world there's a lot going on. We don't control everything, but there's some we can really control. But it's knowing, it's understanding what we are rather than the pursuit of who we are. Yeah? Okay. So when I wrote my book, The Maz Factor, I was at a business event and I was a speaker, and one of the other speakers was a policeman. And after he heard my story, he came over to me and he said, "Do you know we would have given you less than 1% chance that you would have changed?" So, and I said, "How can you do that? How would you know? You're a policeman. What's that got to do with anything?" He said, "Oh no, we know by your last name where you live, the likelihood that there'll be domestic violence, child sexual abuse and all of the stuff." I said, "You're kidding. How can you know that?" He said, "Oh yeah, pretty predictable. We know the suburbs and we know..." I'm like, what? We the people know nothing. How can you keep this from us? We say anyone, you know, as if it's the same ratio, that there's not some predictability in it. I was blown away. I was pretty proud of myself too, but I was blown away. So we know nature, nurture. Yeah, you've heard of nature, nurture. You know those influence. You know. So nature meaning, you know, evolution and biology and how our bodies change to adapt to potential risks and, you know, stress responses, etc. Could be heightened hypervigilance if it's something started young. But our design. So we're conscious, we're unconscious. We do know that. Layers of conscious. We won't get technical. Okay, we're just going to sort of be broad. And females and males, nature-wise, design-wise, are we different? Could there be a difference? We don't think so, because we don't do very much testing, so we don't particularly think so. And yet, if you go to any comedy club, it certainly isn't well known. Right, so psychologically I'm talking about. But anyway, so what about nurture? We understand nurture. It's a big thing that, you know, your environment. And we, with mental health, care and wellness. So that caring element is very important, isn't it? It's very important. And we know these matter. So if you look at nurture for a minute, 1 to 5 years old, you're imprinted, they call it. Stamp. Just like a branding iron, so to speak. 6 to 9, or roundabout, you know, people change the ages and have different exact lines there, but 6 to 9 is modelling. I'm going to walk with the little mower behind Daddy with my toy mower, etc. And 10 to, I don't know, 20, going over teeth, that is your socialising. That's where you sort of lose them to peers and you've done your job as best you could, because you certainly notice that, right, when you have kids. I've got 4 kids, I've got 13 grandchildren, and I have 2 great-grandchildren. So, you know, you see this playing out, but I've known this for a long time. And then from there on, how well we make our decisions really matters. And all of that moulded how well we make those decisions. how confident we are to make decisions autonomously in our best interest. So the quality of those decisions potentially comes from the nature, the nurture, but. Epigenetics, most of you would know what that word is, and that is, they call it environmentally influenced genes. Because your DNA can express a number of ways. Without getting technical, it's just passed down stuff. In layman's terms. Passed down is one of the big factors, and I'll share something with you about that. So it's called sort of lifestyle as a big influence. So it's a sort of, when it comes to nature, nurture, what makes us be and do what we do. So then there's something called intra-uterine transference. Write that down, I reckon, if you have paper near you and you care about people. Because intra-uterine transference. This was a big one, and I knew it in my bones before anyone was talking about it in science. And it is anything unseen is a hypothesis, right? Unless you're getting results, then there's something about the hypothesis. And people do like to challenge me on a lot of what I say, but they never can challenge my results. So that's something to think about there. That does this make sense? Intra-uterine transference. So nature, nurture, but did you know 3 generations are alive at one time of your bloodline? We don't talk about this in these industries. Maybe yours does, sorry, but not, majority. You don't hear this at all, especially in personal development. I founded the Institute of Women International. Before that, I've been empowering women for 30 years when I turned my life around. But Karen Williams is an epidemiologist, and she works at the Ohio State University there, and she teaches epigeneticists and so on. She is the one really talking about intrauterine transference, like we all just didn't think about it. Guess what? So you're an egg for 4 to 5 months inside your mum when she was still 4 to 5 months left of development inside her mum. You lived in your grandmother. You just did. Now, the body is a moist environment. There's the cells, but there's what's between the cells. So we're a moist environment, right? And what your grandmother experienced very likely could add on top of epigenetics in the sense of how we see it. Something coming external into the body influence called lifestyle. What about in the real environment that it's growing in? Could it be affected by that? That's big. Is that big for anyone? Is it big? Because it's huge when you link it to the real statistics of what's going on in our industry that we want to help people with. So, I believe it's the biggest influence missed. Total blind spot, especially since testing on boy mice castrated, so just boys without balls of girls. Now this is not the case so much now always, but they were allowed to be written down as females. So when I started my research, and I spent 13,000 hours in one go. Out of bed, end of bed. I taught myself to read white papers. And what I ended up was getting depressed when I realised, oh my gosh, I ended up researching. The research was the biggest awakening that it seemed that nobody I could talk to about it. When you study when you research the research, you're going to be shocked. In fact, I went into a depressive state and thought, oh my gosh, I can't come out. I can't tell people this. Not at that point. Because it would add on top of the problem I discovered. And I did not want to make anyone worse. So when I went to look for a solution, one didn't exist that would do what I needed something to do. If anybody was going to have a wake-up call and snap out of it like I did, which I had well and truly just dozens of traumas stacked on top of each other as severe PTSD. I lived in terror in every cell of my body. Every day I lived in hiding for over 400 days, bunkered down as a single mum. So I know all of that, but I don't have that now. In fact, I couldn't eye contact you. I used to walk around looking at the ground. I would be one of the shyest people you ever met. I was shy, but then I would bite your head off. If you looked at me, I would say, what the F are you looking at? Even if you were going to smile, because I was not socially... So I'll role play my life for a moment. By 0 to 5. Daddy, why don't you like me? Get out of my effing sight. That's my 1 to 5. Then my sister's born, and I'm 6. And, she's his best friend. She's in his lap. She is everywhere. Then, when I see that, remember modelling now coming, I'm like, I don't know who to model. And I said, Daddy, what's wrong with me? F off, you're a freak. So anyway, laugh. Okay. So that was sort of how I grew up. So the generations, what I didn't want to do was repeat the patterns. So, yeah, there's all good reason. I can stand here actually and defend him and everything. Okay, I can explain it theoretically like you could, behaviourally. I can. Yes. So, yeah. Anyway, how good was that? I'm proud of myself. Because I don't have the issues. But doing that, I said, I'm not going to talk to you tonight. I'm going to be real. Because that's my real life. You don't just cut your history off. But anyway, so guess what? I had guns at my head. My mum had guns at her head, all for entertainment's sake. And her mum had guns at her head. And then my daughter's working at a Brisbane Bendigo bank in the modern era, and guess what? Someone walks in and puts one in front of my daughter's face. I mean, that's 4 generations of girls with a gun in their face in a modern Western world. What is your chances? So anyway, so there's 3 real things to explain what does this mean that I'm trying to get at. Because we really want to help clients, and I went to a psychiatrist once and I said, can you please get somebody to take over my life? I can't do it. I was living in hiding. I'd been living in hiding for more than 300 days. We went to the other side of Australia. I couldn't contact family because if I did, I just couldn't in case he found me. So that, yeah, anyway.
Mas, we are a little late on time.
Late?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what I want just to say there is, and now I lost my train of thought. We want to help the people, but I was one of those people, and that psychiatrist said to me, well, from everything you've been through, you're actually fine. I sat in the car and I'm like, I'm a 9.9999% going to jump off a cliff. And he said, you're fine, because it's justifiable. But I wasn't okay. Anyway, can we be whole again and reset? So anyway, on a second relocation program, I was in a phone box, no phone call was made, and I woke up on the floor of that phone box. I was in a beliefless state. I was in a timeless state. All my faculties were not in my body. I didn't know what had happened to me. We were relocating, 4 kids in the car, the engine was running, I could see them, but time wasn't, I could see them moving, but I couldn't hear anything. And at this point, I was 31 years old, and I just, by the time all my beliefs, everything sort of come back into my body, I was a different person. I was re-identified from weak to you think. And I turned my life around, and I never ever looked back. I just was different. It didn't get easier straight away, of course, and all of that stuff. So, but it happened. And you hear of these people, they wake up, they have a heart attack or something, and everything changes. Now you see them doing the whole thing of everything that they couldn't do before that moment. So, yep, finished? We're done? Yep. Okay, so, anyway, skip all the way. Skip all the way. But please just understand that the biggest problem really is that I looked up 10 countries of people that were attending this event, and all of them had more females in the industry. As clients and patients. Most are women. Between 8 and 12% more females in every country. So please consider that maybe the intrauterine transference could be something looked at and considered, and that's what I went on then to create a female formulated breakthrough methodology that's a safe framework from a beautiful place. They're not in pain, and they can heal pain painlessly. So anyway,
thank you so much. Can we have a resounding applause for Maz?
if anyone wants to further the conversation or you have questions, please, there is, at the end, don't leave now because there's plenty to happen, but at the end, there's a QR code and I'll have a meeting and you can ask me anything you want. Okay, if you want to.
I request you, Maz, to please stay on the stage. We would love to honor you and felicitate you on the behalf of Fluxx. So, I request for honoring Maz on stage, may I please have Prince Ibrahim. I request her to please you join us on the stage and felicitate our keynote speaker. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we have been joined by His Excellency Prince Ibrahim of Gambia, the chairman of Royal Africa Holdings and a living custodian of over 700 years of royal heritage. First, we'd like to honor the Prince Ibrahim. I request Mr. Abhishek Narayan, the founder and CEO of Fluxx Events, to join us on the stage. Honor our special guest, and then I request Prince Ibrahim to please honor Maz, our keynote speaker tonight. Thank you, Prince Ibrahim, for joining us, taking out time from your schedule and joining us here on the Fluxx. Thank you. So Maz has taught us the real healing doesn't always start in the lab or clinic. It starts from within.